Welcome to MRE Uncut, where we'll give you real and practical insights into the real estate scene in Melbourne. We'll discuss what's happening in the industry, all backed by MRE's history of over 30 years in the game. With that said, let's jump into this week's episode of MRE Uncut.
Welcome back to another MRE Uncut. My name's Stephen Fitzsimon, and today I'm joined by Peter Hooymans,
Steve-O,
and Matthew McKenna, Senior Property Manager at MRE.
Steve.
Today we're trying to understand the aim of our government when during a housing crisis they are fundamentally pissing off all investors in the market.
And tenants, surely, because
they're paying as a result.
Yeah. Well, so it's for me.
I'm speechless.
Yeah. For me, mate, this is a serious. They have seriously f***ed it up.
Yep.
I mean, it's a disaster. What's going on? So I mean, I don't even know where to start. Right? I don't know where to start with the legislation and the
just keeps getting worse.
And the compliance and the blinds, this and that. So let's break it down. Forced socialism by stealth is. I
don't know how else to describe it.
Under the veil and of the COVID times, which I know that's a few years ago now, but man, they've just if you're an investor, I mean, case in point, right? Last night we get a call from a seasoned property developer / one of our great clients, heaps of properties in the mix. He can read, he's a great operator. He's got a property. He rings me. I want to renovate. There's a tenant. Can I get him out? I've been told I can't. I'm reading online. I don't think I can. And I was like, oh, mate, we're going to VCAT every other day. By the way, we're going to VCAT and defending some pretty vexatious, nasty fucking tenants, and we're winning.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, have we lost one yet?
Not for a...
Yeah, right. So we're winning.
They get talked about when you lose.
And the members are finally seeing that. So there's so much of this going on. And this particular landlord, I won't say names, he doesn't know what the highest and best is. And we're talking about a property worth $3 million.
No,
and he's tied in knots because of this, because of the legislation, because of the the onerous rules around a tenant can just stay forever type of thing.
Yep.
So that to me that's really interesting, and that's why we're seeing again. I bumped into another one of our landlords on Sunday. Oh, by the way, I'm selling 2 properties. Mate, I'm over it. And how often are we hearing that?
All the time.
Every day?
Oh.
I'm hearing it every day.
Yeah. At least a couple of times a week I'm getting calls from clients or I'm talking to them and they're just going, it's just become too expensive. Can you put me in touch with your sales team and
so
get evaluation?
Expensive is one thing, which let's touch on land tax.
Yep.
Okay, so just super quick. If you're local, it's 2%. If you're foreign, it's 4%.
Yep.
So let's go for a single fronter in Richmond or Hawthorn, which is probably top of the tree for investment property at the moment. It's worth $2 million.
Yep.
Land's worth $1 million.
Yeah, at least.
Maybe a bit more. I would say 1.4. Yeah. Right. And so your land tax bill's $30,000.
Yep.
And you've got your rates on top of that. And insurance, let's call that another 10. Right. Rates of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Insurance is 3 or 4 now.
Yeah.
So that's 10. So it's going to cost you 40 before you've got a loan. And how much rent are you getting? $1,000 a week?
Yeah, $1,000 a week.
Right. So you're getting 50 rent. It's costing you 40 in land tax and rates.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't include
and then if you've got a mortgage of, let's call it,
a bit of maintenance,
60%, 700 at 7%, it's 50,000. So it's costing you 100,000 to get 50,000 rent, and your property might be growing at 8%. So you know what I'm saying? So the equation now. So I'm going to say that the current government has. We could be 5 to 7 years before we see any reasonably, good, strong growth.
It was amazing
in the investment market.
So I'll tell you about an example I had. Hong Kong-based investor.
Yep.
Has got 8 properties that we look after across Melbourne.
Yep.
Different buildings, purchased over a period of time from 12, 13 years ago to about 6 years ago. And he calls up and he goes, I want to sell them all.
When was this?
6 weeks ago.
Okay.
And he goes, I want to sell them all. And we're like, okay, well, tell us about the circumstance that we're in. And he goes, so I bought them. Stamp duty was next to nothing.
Yeah, off the plan, yeah.
Used to be able to borrow money to buy them, arrange my loans. Easy, no problems at all. Finance, not a problem. At some points they were cash flow positive because of the fact that interest rates were lower.
Yeah, which is everybody, yep.
None of them are worth what he paid for them now.
Yep.
So he's seen all of that time as operating.
How long are we talking since he bought them?
Well, the most recent one was about 2016.
Okay.
And then they go back to about 12 years ago.
Right.
So in that period there, none of them are worth what he's actually got for them.
Yeah.
And he's paying, like if you add it up, he's got the gas and electrical safety checks that he's going to have to pay.
700.
He's an overseas owner, and even though he's got apartments, because he's got a multitude of them, he's got land tax at 4% of their land values.
Yeah, which wouldn't be much on apartments, but still.
It's averaging at about 70,000 a pop for him.
Yep.
So he's got 700,000 in land that he's got to pay. That he's got to pay his 30 grand on. So there's the rent straight away from one of them.
Yep.
Gone.
Yeah.
And it evolves from there. And he's just like, I haven't made $1 from it since I started.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason that those apartments got built was because it was investors like him buying them.
Yes.
They were sold overseas.
But I would argue, just let me throw this in because this is another gripe, sold overseas by a project marketer using a channel agent mode or model.
For sure.
Between, as we know, 8 and 12% commission.
Yes.
So on a $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000 property, the agent is getting 80 to 100 grand comp. And then if you you get the updates from those, not saying it, and they do bonuses.
Yeah.
And so they get 10% com.
20 grand bonus.
More.
Yeah.
50. So in some cases I've seen properties worth 600 to 700, 150K commissions.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, where do you reckon that goes?
Yeah.
It goes on the price.
Yeah.
And that's why they're out of water. That's why a lot of them are out of
Could not agree more.
underwater.
Yeah, they're ignorant investors being taken advantage of.
And then the other one I love.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there's a heap of gripes here.
Yeah.
I love the accountants that sell investment property. And the financial planners. Well, fuck me. Mum and dad have got an SMSF. Let's just get you a shit flat, Joey, in Northcote.
Yeah.
That's and built by some developer that's since long gone broke, and it leaks like a sieve.
Yep.
We can't get the builder back because he's living in, I don't know.
It's been liquidated. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, whatever. And it's just a shit show.
Yeah.
So and we got quite a few of them.
But that's the journey actually that they've gone on has led to the construction of these properties, and now there's no reason to keep them.
Yeah, but so the financial planners and accountants, so firstly, right, they're supposed to declare their interest. We're supposed to say to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, oh, by the way, when you buy that in your super fund, we're getting 75,000 comp. They don't.
No.
We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
So
or they put it in there, but it's on one of the 400-page documents that they just go sign here, and sign here.
Yeah. So all that investment stock really was a bit of a rip as far as I'm concerned. That got sold to heaps of investors. So channel commissions, be wary.
So they've gone through
the
that.
offshores got stitched.
Then you've got the other version of the offshore, which is the one who's bought an apartment and then realised, because we've got a few of these who have sort of bought an apartment and realised that it's after 5 years of ownership, it hasn't gone up. That's not so good. When we were sold it, we were looking at the sales values for houses, and they're rising.
Yeah.
And so now I want to buy a house. So they go and they buy a house in the outer suburbs of Melbourne.
Yep.
Off the plan, new development, so they tick the boxes for them being able to buy it. Mm-hmm. They buy the property, and now 5 years after they've settled on the property, they've invested. They're going to pay land tax.
Yeah, 4% on a block worth 600.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work either, grand. And they're getting 700 a week rent.
If that, because it's outer suburbs.
Yeah. So just like list of reasons why tenants, so socialism by stealth. So we're trying to make everything equal and everybody has a go, and tenants are like, this is all going to come back on tenants at the end of the day. I don't know, early next year and the following year and for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, what do you, like, just quickly around the room, what do we think we're going to see average annual growth in rents? Given that, you and I did this maths, right?
Yeah.
600,000 investment properties in Victoria.
Yeah.
We were at a function with 100 agents. Each one was a rent roll of about 1,000. So it was 100,000 properties being managed in the room.
Yeah.
They were all being losing properties at 10% per annum.
Yeah.
So we worked out, I think you and I worked out, it was about 12,000 properties a month across Victoria being sold.
Yeah.
So 12,000, let's call it 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So when we get to 300,000 investment properties in Victoria, how are rents going?
Yeah.
And then you look at Sydney where it's all landlocked, so super tight, and you look at the rents there, makes Melbourne look super cheap.
Yep.
So I can see a situation where one bedders in Richmond, and I didn't really think this would happen, but I can see $800.
Yep.
Two bedders, 1,000, three bedders, 12, 14, 1,500.
Yep.
It'll come down to whoever's got the biggest biggest wallet and throws the cash at the agent because they're desperate. Yeah. So
there's nothing to stop it.
So I reckon you can lock in 10% rental growth for the next. Okay, let's do this. If a property is currently $550 a week in Richmond for a one bedder, could you see $800 a week in 5 years?
Definitely.
Okay, so that's 50% growth, which is 10% per annum.
Yeah, a little bit less that if you.
Yeah.
But yes.
You said you didn't even hesitate.
Yeah. In 5 years, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, maybe more.
550 is already cheap.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know. That was a bad example. Maybe I should start at 600 because we really don't have much under 550.
If it's half decent, it's 600.
Yeah. So in 5 years, maybe one bedders are 900, which is what they are in Sydney. Actually, they're more in Sydney if you're in a good spot.
They're going to be more than that again. But like, I look at it and I go.
So they've royally messed it.
Yeah, because they've royally messed it. Messed it. That's a new word. Messed it. They've messed it. Okay. So they've stuffed it up on both sides.
They've fucked it hard.
Like it's It's like
Sorry.
It's really challenging though because you sit there and the bit that gets me is that there is very little facility for people that live in the suburbs with their kids at school to be able to rent another property because the property that they're in has been sold. So because they have to sell the one because the land tax is stuffed.
Who's sold in Byron and they're looking, they're like ringing me going, we need something to rent. I said, what do you need? Oh, 3 bed, 2 cars, about 150 square metres. And I'm like, okay, that's good. And what's your budget? 1,100.
No
way. Like, you need 1,500 plus.
Yeah.
So, and then I couldn't even direct them to anything. I don't even think we have anything, do we, for less like that?
Oh,
but you know what I'm saying? Like it's tight. The market's super tight.
But the challenge is the component that I think is hardest hit is the family that's in the burbs that has a house because their owners have now got this massive land tax bill and they're like, nah.
Oh, you mean the tenants?
Yeah, the tenants.
Yeah. Tenants in the suburbs.
Tenants in the suburbs, yeah. Because they've got they live in a house, their kids go to the school, they're on the basketball club and all the rest of it, and but they're renting.
Yep.
Do you know, I'm trying to paint a picture.
Yes, clearly.
That's not a good one, but it gets sold because the land tax and all the costs and the fact that it's got, now they're talking about you've got to have insulation in the walls, that the houses have never had insulation in for all their life. Now they're going to have insulation.
That'll be an easy retrofit.
Yeah.
That'll be about as easy as the electrical
rewiring.
So we're jumping around, but coming back to the compliance piece, the legislation.
Yeah.
So now we've got, 50,000 houses in Melbourne that are non-compliant.
Yeah.
And that's an actual number from one of our major suppliers, right? Who does all the smoke detector stuff. There's around 44,000, I think, was the number that are non-compliant. So they'll be compliant. They need to be made compliant. So full wiring, $20,000. But here's the kicker: to enforce the compliance, we've got. Was it 12?
Yeah, 12 people.
We've got 12 people under this amazing Labor government. 12 people to go out and police the compliance.
Yeah.
So
the task force.
So I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah, they picked on Fitzroy the other week.
Right. What?
Well, they said that they've given out hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines.
Have they?
Yeah, well, that's what they say. I don't think they'd lie.
Right.
And if they have, like they haven't noticed, they haven't said this agency has been fined or this landlord has been fined for this, but they said hundreds of thousands.
Just while we're on that, our portfolio is just under 4,000. What percentage would we be compliant?
No, everything's compliant apart from the ones that are. Okay. Yeah, no, we've already gone
just
through
a plug for us.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
but no,
I was curious.
No. So the only thing that happens is that when they inspect, there's always going to be properties that become non-compliant when they inspect because the tenant's broken the light switch. So now it's no longer safe. Got to change the light switch.
Yeah,
that's
so right.
But we went through it all fine tooth comb.
So we have a surge in right wing love in Victoria, like for Queensland.
Yeah,
and we kick this ridiculous government's ass where it needs to be out. Right,
well, and we vote you in with the government as long as they change their policies.
We're going to vote you in as the premier.
Right,
which would be
that'd be hilarious.
Well, because all we do. Can you imagine the ear bashing? All we do is listen
meetings about
listen to bullshit. No, but seriously, what would you do?
For first things, I'd be looking at stamp duty,
if you can keep
which is what they've actually done.
Would be good.
No, the stamp duty they've already done.
Oh, yeah, off the plan. Yeah,
that was the first thing.
But it's 2 years too late, and it's for 1 year. It needs to be just in perpetuity till the developers come back.
100%.
Because your old mate Tim Gurner, he's great. He wants to do projects. He's got a great pipeline, but he's still not 12 months. It takes 12 months to get a permit.
Yes.
So it takes 12 months to draw 12 months to draw the plans.
Yes. We've got 6 years of pain.
He needs a 5-year window, and then he'll probably turn the tap off on some of the owner-occupied stuff that he does. Great, luxurious, beautiful apartments. It's great if you've got $6 million.
Yeah.
But if you're in that $700 to $1 million range, they're not going to build that because there's no reason to.
No.
And the stamp duty concession, will they extend it? Probably will. I don't know. But 12 months, not very long.
Yeah.
So you're the premier.
Yeah.
Premier Fitzsimon.
Yeah. Mr. Premier.
It's got a ring, isn't it?
Mr. Premier.
Mr. Premier.
No, for me, I think that some of the things that they've actually suggested are practical, but the problem is they've been suggested 5 years too late.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've skewed it all to tenants.
All right, you've got
to
5 policies. You could have given to me.
Well, you've got to get rid of your overseas taxes.
Yep.
Right. We can't get rid of our overseas owners. They need to be incentivized to be able to get back in. So finance for the overseas. Open the doors to overseas again. It's crazy.
That's tricky for the government to influence finance. That's up to the banks. So,
but they legislated against in terms of the ratios and all the rest of it. So they can open
make it easier.
Yep, make it easier. They do need to develop the higher density areas. So they need to free up faster, expedited planning of high density areas.
Yeah, but probably that could lead to inferior buildings, which we've already had the experience from 2015, 2014, 2013. Developers unleashed, there's some pretty average stuff we manage.
Well, the biggest one that we've got underpinning all this is the actual builders, because if the builders aren't delivering quality stock.
Well, good luck getting the builder at the moment.
I completely understand. I completely understand. So if you want to do, you've got to build that from the ground up, and this is why it takes time. These are the challenges. So, but I think you need to be developing more. You need to make it easier, and you've got to keep the internationals to be able to come on board. That all of that is essential for me.
What about the ridiculous compliance standards?
That's all got to be torn up. It doesn't need. It just needs to be smart.
So the other one we've got is we've got a couple. We had that one in Hawthorne, that house.
Yeah.
Again, naming names or streets, $2,000 a week. I just think from memory, or whatever it was, $1,800 a week. And the owner didn't want pets.
Yeah.
And I went through and I was like, wow, he's just spent $1.4 million renovating the place, brand new everything, alpaca carpet and marble floors. I wouldn't want pets in there either.
It's ridiculous.
So, and I got into a lift in our building yesterday.
Yeah.
And a bloke walked in with 2 border collies.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, what are you doing with border collies on level 10? And he's level 10. It's not fair to the pet for one, but geez, that's pretty hard for a landlord.
It's brutal. But you sit there and you go, I understand how people want to have a pet, and I understand the
one when you buy your own house.
Correct. And then the other thing is, I also understand how people don't like it when you come into their house to have a look at it to provide a routine inspection for their owner. But I'm sorry, you don't own it.
Yeah.
You don't own it. You're not equal to the person who owns it because you don't own it.
So heaps of, like from what I hear and talking to landlords and stuff that, they're our clients who are friends, colleagues, acquaintances, long-term clients. Yeah, they're pretty aggrieved, across the board. Not with us, just with the whole head stretch.
Why would you let your family home have somebody come into it and live where your mum and dad brought you up? They looked after it forever, and then now they can just move in there and go, oh, yeah, I got a staffy puppy.
So another thing that I've like in the PM space, property management space of residential, right, whether it's apartments or houses, the standards from the standard of care from agents, I reckon, has dropped off as well.
There's no doubt,
right? Because
because
it's become so big and onerous and difficult. I'm looking at you because you're in this space and you can give us like a live sort of, read. But it was hard before, I kept using the C word, COVID. It was hard before COVID, but now it's like really hard to manage the pet thing. And they can put unlimited number of hooks on the walls and all that, and, which is fine. I mean, I can still make it a home, but it's
the challenge is
cut and dried, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's changed completely after COVID, and the tenant has everything's weighted in the tenant's favour now, and it's just it's less rights for the owner. They basically have to say yes to a pet, otherwise they've got to go to VCAT and get an order that says no, the tenant can't have it.
They're not going to win
And
anyway.
the scary bit, so you're saying how hard it is for the owners. So the owners, the smart owners, I reckon, are just going sell. So they're selling en masse. In our case, we're selling, 20, 30 a month, whatever it is. And then, okay, even if they change it, let's say when Liberals get in next election in a year's time, it's going to take 5 years to get the stock back that we had.
Oh, at least.
Plus.
Yeah.
So the turnaround's
really slow.
Yeah. So if you are a landlord and you do hang on, which is what I'm doing, I reckon rents are just going to be...
They're just going to be ridiculous.
Which should pull prices a little bit as well.
Correct. And that's where apartment prices, I think, will start to rise.
They're actually moving already. In fact, we sold a one-bedder in Richmond the other day. They bought it originally off us for, I think it was $485, and we sold it for $731.
Yeah.
That was that.
Yeah. I know.
$731 for a one plus study.
Yeah.
So that was a good result. That shows you that it's moving.
Yeah,
and we
it
had
is.
4 buyers. So,
So, Maddie, I'm fascinated in terms of, because the legislation has had an impact on property managers in a way that has not been perceived by owners. And so I asked the question now, the legislation has said, okay, you can have a pet, but you've got to return the property to the owner, in minus fair wear and tear, back. And you can put picture hooks up on the wall, but you've got to return the property. You've got to remove them because you return the property to the owner in the way that it was. In your experience, when the tenants put picture hooks up throughout the property, do they return the property in the way that it was provided to them minus fair wear and tear?
Some of the time. And really depends on the property manager that's doing or whoever's doing the final inspection, and how lenient the owner wants to be.
And when you say lenient, because the thing that I spotted the other day when I walked into a property was it had white walls, and they'd painted.
Did you say what?
White.
White walls, yeah.
White walls.
Yeah.
Right. They were probably, antique white or whatever was the trend at the time.
Sure.
But the tenant had painted it with a semi-gloss paint on.
Are they allowed to paint the walls?
Yeah.
Oh, when they were
patching it.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Brilliant.
And so
it doesn't match.
It doesn't match.
Right. So it's a $5,000 fix. No, it's more than that.
But it's not only that. It's not only that. But who has to fix it? It's not the landlord who has to fix it. Like the tenant has to fix it. But who organises that?
Yeah.
The property manager.
Yeah.
So the workload, and then you go and you've got urine stains on carpet.
Oh, please.
How often is that happening?
Jesus.
Oh, it's happened to me every Saturday, mate, after a big night. Yeah. No, but you do see a lot of that because there are loads more pets in properties now than
See, that's
pre-COVID.
just, seriously.
Yeah.
That's so then you're talking about replacing carpet.
Yes.
like every tenancy.
Yes.
If there's a pet.
Yes, and if but this is the beautiful thing. They moved into a property that was 6 years old. The carpets were immaculate, right? They've gone in there. Their carpets have been damaged by the pet, and they need to pay 1/7, correct me if I'm wrong, of the value of those carpets because they've depreciated.
Oh, well, if they've stayed in there for a year, then the carpet, according to VCAT's, at the end of its lifespan. So probably nothing.
I mean, we had dogs in our office, if you remember, right, for a week, and until one did a shit, right, in the office, and that was the end of the dogs, and that was us, and we were a bit lenient. It was a week, So to have them in the house, like how do you?
But this is what happens. This is what happens.
Unless can you toilet train dogs? I've seen a few.
You definitely can.
I've seen it. No, but I mean like, you can.
Yeah, but they still get sick.
Yeah, right. Anyway,
so it's not a nice conversation. But the fact of the matter is that they're having this, and then this is the biggest thing. If those pets weren't there, that carpet would still be fine.
Yep.
And you're not even allowed to take an extra bond anymore.
I was just about to ask, what's the bond?
No. And they've
so on
actually
40 grand rent, which we've just saying is a one bedder in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't know, 40 grand's a round number.
Yeah.
What's the bond?
1 month.
So
we used to take 5 weeks.
3,500.
Yeah.
And given that we've got all this cost push inflation, building price, like 3.5 grand goes absolutely nowhere. So your hallway you spoke about, it's, I don't know, little single fronted Victorian, you're not going to get a hallway painted for 3 grand.
No.
But paint's going to be 500, and then you've got to get a couple of guys there for a day at $70 an hour each. It's $2,500, $3,000 just for that before we get to the other room.
Yep.
Yeah, so bonds are inadequate as well.
And then it's relying on landlord insurance.
Yeah.
And landlord insurance is, that's only going to skyrocket like every other insurance has skyrocketed. As
How
they go
are they paying out?
Yep. They have to. They got, that's the policy. But the reality is most tenants are good.
Yeah, okay.
Most tenants are good. It's the problem who's the problem. And
who's the problem, sorry?
The problem.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Okay. Is that enough ranting about?
That's enough ranting.
Yeah. Geez, I could go on for hours. I love kicking what they've done.
That's not appropriate. Leave it there, Peter.
I want to kick them a bit harder, but anyway, okay.
Looking forward to catching up with you all on our next episode. Thanks for watching and listening.
Thank you, honourable member for MRE.
Yeah. Just remember, force stealth, bloody force socialism by stealth is what it is.
Yeah.